Hey everyone, welcome back to the feature branch. And today we're going to be talking about how you can view your AI credit utilization, whether you're using the GitHub Copilot CLI, VS Code, or the GitHub Copilot app. Now, as you know, GitHub Copilot went to usage-based billing on June 1st, and it's been about 6 weeks since that released as of the recording. And the GitHub Copilot team and the VS Code team have created a lot of ways for you to visualize how you're using your AI credits. So as you can see here on July 1st, there was a sub-agents credit visualization so that when you're actually using sub-agents, you can see how many credits that sub-agent was using. And also on update 1.126 on June 24th, there was also session level cost that you can see as well. And I'll be demoing all of this in a bit. Now I thought, hey, if the VS Code team is releasing these, I thought it'd be a great opportunity to just showcase how you can view this across all those different surfaces. Now, as always, I will have chapters set up. So in case you're interested specifically on a specific IDE or interface, you can just skip there. All right, and without further ado, let's get started with the GitHub Copilot CLI. And the reason why I want to start here is because some of the commands will translate, or at least they will kind of show up in other areas, and it will help you kind of understand where I'm coming from. So first things first, you can of course look at the models by doing /model. And when you see /model, when you go down, each one of these models that you're in will highlight how many credits per 1 million tokens. So you can see the input, output, cache read, and cache write. And that will change depending on the model that you select. So that's the first aspect of it. The next thing that you can do is that it's kind of already there. You can see here in the sessions, you'll see how many AI credits are being used in your entire session. Now for the demos today, they'll be very lightweight because the prompts are not the star of the show. What we're interested in is how many credits they used. And so here, I just did very simple prompts. As you can see here, what our APIs was kind of what I kicked things off with up here. So nothing too elaborate. That's why our AI credit usage is pretty low. What's great then is that you can do /usage. And so /usage will show how often you've been using or credits across the calendar last 180 days, as you can see here. What I really do like though is down here. So from top to bottom, you can see your AI credit utilization, how much time. So in the last 9 minutes, I used 1.27 AI credits, which should line up with this number down here. Then you'll see actually your tokens. So you'll see how many tokens that you're sending, receiving, cache, written, etc. Right? Everything that we saw earlier on the models. What I especially like here though is that I actually switched to models. So down here you see that I'm on Claude Haiku 4.5, but actually I had another prompt earlier on GPT-5 Mini. And so you can see what your utilization was for each specific model. And then lastly, on the very bottom is your plan. In my case, I have a 2,000 AI credit plan, which I just started kicking off. And so I've only used 16 so far in my plan. And so you can view that all there. Another thing that I love using is /context. And so context will show where the tokens are coming from. So this will only be on the current model, so the one that's being used. So in this case, it's Claude Haiku 4.5. You'll see that out of your 200,000 tokens, I've been using 21,000, but where they come from is the interesting part. So there's some things that you don't have much control over, like the system prompt. That's going to take up 3% or 6,500 tokens there. But there are some things that you do have control over, like MCP tools. Here I have 5,700 being used. And then, the messages that I've been sending, things like that. Now, what that means is you can kind of see where the tokens are coming from, and if you're using a lot, where you might be able to tweak. So I mentioned MCP is a great example. If you go to /MCP, you'll notice here that each MCP server highlights how many tokens that they're being used. So context 7 is very little, that's 704. Playwright is 3,700, and the GitHub MCP server is at 14. So all those combined should add up to what we were seeing there earlier. Now, the other nice thing is that one, you can of course enable or disable these, or two, you can actually go into them and see which one of the tools, how many tokens those are actually being used up by as well. So the browser click is 191 tokens, browser resize is 95 tokens, etc. So that's another way to visualize all those tokens being used. And so that's how we can kind of visualize our token slash AI credit utilization on the GitHub Copilot CLI. Now, I'll move on to the GitHub Copilot app. Here, it's actually pretty straightforward. I'm going to pick a cheaper model there, Haiku. I'm just going to kick things off with, I was going to say hi, but API stand for, we'll just let that run. It's for the GitHub Copilot app, I find that it's fairly straightforward. It is right here. So if you've never thought about hovering over the title right here, when you click there, that's where you'll start seeing your AI credit spend and the context as well. And so as you can see, this one command cost 3.96 AI credits. You'll see a bar chart for the context, but if you click on it, that's where you'll get all that information again. So here, MCP tools is actually only 1,500 because I have more things disabled here. Messages, system tools and prompts, things that you have less control over, etc. And then you'll see, of course, the token and reasoning. For the models, if you hover over them, that's how you can view the AI credits for a 1 million spend. And as of right now, that's the main ways that you can view it. You do get the same commands that I showed in the GitHub Copilot CLI, like /usage. But all that does actually is it kind of takes you to your settings and then shows you your plan. In this case, it shows that I've used 1% or 20 credits so far. And then if I go to /context that I showed earlier, it's going to take you back to that same drop down. So you can always just click over it. It's the exact same thing, that we showed earlier. And so that's how you can visualize this when using the GitHub Copilot app there. All right. Last but not least, let's move on to VS Code. So here I have the GitHub Copilot chat here on the right-hand side. I picked another cheap model here. One way you can start visualizing is right here. As you can see, each call, right? Each one of those calls will show the number of credits. So that hello itself took 2.7 credits from Haiku 4.5. If I ask the same question, stand for, we'll see it coming through again. And again, 0.9 credits this time for this question. Down here, you'll also see that little circle, right? And then as you can see, it'll show you your context window. If you hover over there, you'll see your entire session cost. So it's 3.6 because it's combining the earlier prompt plus the new one. So that's your entire session cost there. And as you can see here, you'll see things like your tool definitions and your system instructions. And this is where you'll see the information about what's using up that context window. Now, that's the basics there. Of course, if I want to, as I showed in the changelog earlier, have a sub agent, see how much that costs. Okay, we can kick one off here. Create a sub agent to research when the first API was created. And so that should kick off, and then we should see two things. One, how much that entire call, starting from the initial prompt, and then specifically how much that sub agent also cost as well. And so here's the sub agent. I can hover over it, and as you can see, we have 3.1 credits using Haiku 4.5, and the entire call cost 4 credits there as well. Lastly, I don't believe I covered the model cost here, similar to the GitHub Copilot app. You hover over the model and you will see again the cost per model and just a little bit of a guidance on if they're low cost or lightweight models. Now, the last thing I will mention, if you've noticed on my left-hand side, there's actually a chat debug. So if you click on the 3 dots here and then go to show chat debug view, it'll open this on the left-hand side. And this is fairly helpful if you want to go deeper into what the capabilities are. And so, for example, earlier when I said, hey, what does an API stand for? Or what does API stand for? You'll notice that all those prompts are showing up here, right? Those are those message bubbles. And so if I click on that and then click on the one below it, you'll get all the metadata underneath as well. So for example, here we'll know what model it went to, and then you'll see all the tokens here. The prompt token, completion token, the total tokens, and then at the very bottom, it'll say what the AI credits was being used. It can be also very helpful if you want to see other tools. So here, as you can see, we do have lots of different tools that you can reference and see what was being called. But here specifically, I'm going to go to the sub agent one. You'll see that for each one, you can see how many credits that cost for that sub-agent, or how much that costs for the other components of it. So here's the 0.41. Oh, and then here's the research and sub-agent itself, which costs 3.10. Yep. And as you can see, that kind of shows the research subagent, how much that subagent cost, what other prompts and tokens, etc., tools that it might have used, and the entire cost itself. So if you're interested in diving deeper, this is definitely the best way to get more information from it, but definitely probably not something you'll use very often. I imagine most of the time you'll be just hovering around, looking at your session costs there, looking at the cost of the actual credits from there, etc., and not going back there. Last thing I will say, uh, here are your tools. While it doesn't show built in, this is an easy way to disable the tools like we were talking about earlier for like MCP servers on the GitHub Copilot CLI. And here's the VS Code way of disabling those tools as well, in case you're trying to save some cost there. All right, so that's all we have for how you can view the model cost and your AI credit cost and utilization across GitHub Copilot, CLI, VS Code, and the GitHub Copilot app. Let me know in the comments if there's anything else that you've learned. Maybe we can share with everyone else. And as always, if you're interested in learning about new features, please follow and subscribe. Thanks, everyone.